Hi, I'm Judd, the streaming DM, and today we're talking about 5 things I've learned streaming Dungeons & Dragons online and how it can help your home game. Welcome everyone. I'm Judd, the Dungeon Master for the role players, and I've decided to create these series of videos in order to share all of the lessons that I'm learning streaming D&D online to a live audience. And let me tell you, I'm making all the mistakes possible. I'm a new DM. I've only been doing it for less than 2 years now. I absolutely love it, and I want to pass on all of these lessons that I'm learning to you all out there, because while we all know there are tons of videos out there of how to DM and tips and tricks and all that, there's something really unique about streaming D&D live and the special lessons that I'm learning there that I think I can help pass on to you all to make your home games even more amazing. So let's jump in. Number 1, pacing. Now, when you have a live D&D show, pacing is critical. If we slow down and we get boring, people immediately leave our show. You know, nobody has attention span for that. But we've also experienced this all at our home games, haven't we? You know, all of a sudden the pacing has gotten a little bit slow. Players start reaching for their phone. We start to see a lot of yawns at the table. A lot of that is because of pacing. Now, some of that can be handled by either ensuring as a DM that you've got everything locked down, or that you just trust yourself to create stuff on the fly to keep that pacing up. And it's a very fine line. You want to make sure that people have the space to have role-playing moments for those really important scenes out there. But you know when you hit that lull, and that lull can kill the energy at the table. It can actually kind of cascade and kill the whole night. So when you see that starting to happen, throw a monster at them. Have an NPC step out and give them a quest off of the top of your head. Or have something planned, or have several things planned that you can trigger the moment the energy level starts to drop. Or ask your player a question, try to engage them to, kind of pick up the scene again, have them start investigating or whatnot. But you are not just a dungeon master, you're also the director of this entertainment for the evening. If you see the game start to slow, speed it up. It'll make your nights even more memorable. Number 2, immersion. This is a big one, and I know that for some people there'll be a comfort level thing here, but I find the more immersive a game can get, the more the game starts to cross over from feeling like a game to feeling like we're in some sort of alternate reality where you're really living those characters and those moments, and you're going to look back on those scenes that you participated in as if you were watching some amazing movie. So how do you achieve immersion in a game? Well, a really easy one is asking your players to always speak as if they were their characters. Now, it doesn't mean they have to do funny voices or do accents or anything like that. And I know some people don't feel comfortable role-playing, so that's fine. But if you have a table and people are comfortable doing it, make sure that they say, I walk over and do this. I grab the monster by the throat. Instead of saying, Allura walks over and does this, or my character walks over and does that. You want to avoid the third person, because the more that you're in that first person, you're really immersed in the story, and it will have a huge payout across the board. It's something that we still work on the show. Sometimes all of us will kind of slip into that third person. It's natural, but the more you can get immersive, the more realistic your game's going to feel. Tip number 3, atmosphere. Now, we're playing Dungeons & Dragons. It is the best role-playing game ever. I absolutely love it. And my goal whenever I'm playing, and especially for the show, we are trying to make it feel as realistic as possible. Like you're really in the moment here. And one of the best ways to do that is by handling atmosphere. Now, there are a couple different ways that you can affect the kind of atmospheric feel to your game. The biggest and the easiest is to play music. Now, if you're not playing music already, you should look into some of the tools that are out there. We use a lot of audio from Tabletop Audio. Tim, the creator over there, has created just amazing sets of sounds for almost any environment you could possibly think of. In addition, he has a full soundboard for a lot of those environments where you can trigger monster sound effects, or a whale sound effect, or a portcullis dropping, or who knows, wind and rain and all of those things. And you can really start to craft your scene so that the people are really feeling like they're there, that they're in this swampy land and they hear all these strange animals in the background and there's this ominous, slowly building music. You're going to see on their faces the tension building in your players. Atmosphere is so helpful for this game. Other things that you can do for your home games: control the lighting, bring the lighting down, have candles, have different scents. You can have some kind of diffuser with essential oils of that region that you might be in. Really try to hit all of those senses. And then as DM, try to plant in their head all of those different senses that their characters are experiencing. That'll also help with the atmosphere. So what's the weather like? How cold or warm is it? Is it moist or is it dry? And just think of all of the senses. What do they see? What do they smell? What do they hear? All those senses. And combine that with the stuff that you're doing behind the scenes there, and wow, that atmosphere is really going to hit, and those players are really going to feel it there in your story. Tip number 4. Is that weird? Tip number 4. Tip 4. Hello. Tip 4. The rule of cool. This is a lesson I have been learning painfully on the show. Especially for us, we have a streaming live show. We're doing entertainment. We're providing entertainment. It's not just a Dungeons and Dragons game. We are trying to give you an experience. So the rule of cool, which is basically just says, if it's cool, let it happen, even if it perhaps is not allowed by the rules or maybe requires a tweaking of the rules. If it's not a big deal, let it happen. Now, this is a lesson that I've just failed on one recent episode of ours, where Tabitha was actually up against this thing right here, this golden golem. And she had this really sick move where she was going to come and do this parkour thing and recall her blink dagger in mid-jump into her hand and land and stab this thing. It was so cool, but I was like, well, I'm sorry, but you've already used your bonus action to get to the golem, and you can't use a bonus action to recall your dagger in the same turn. I'm like, but I'll let you land on it and grab the dagger and use it. Judd, what were you thinking? Rule of cool should have jumped in here and been like, that's badass. Yes, you can do it. I'm going to allow it because we all want to see this really awesome maneuver. And it didn't affect the game. And I basically let her do it anyway. And afterwards, the entire week after that moment, I was like, wow, really did not handle that right. So think about that in your games, because at the end of the day, our jobs as DMs is to make sure that our players are having the best time ever. And if they want to do something super cool and it's not world breaking, let them do it. I'm certainly going to be trying that more. And finally, tip number 5, goals. Now, this is a really important point, and it's probably something that I'm going to do an entire future episode on. There are lots of different goals that need to be kept in mind when we are DMing. But one of the things that we have to do on the show, and one thing that I think will absolutely help your home games, is to make sure that everybody has goals: immediate, short-term, and long-term goals. And what this does for you as DM, let's say you bring out an amazing NPC that you've spent all this time crafting. Well, if they don't have a goal with interacting with the players, then their conversation's going to feel aimless, and we're probably going to get back to that pacing issue we talked about in tip number 1. So keep it in mind. Make sure that they have a goal. They have something that they want to convey, something they want to get out of the players. There's some sort of focus that person or creature or whatever is going to have in that moment. And the same thing for your players. Make sure that your players, when crafting their backstories, that they have goals that they want to achieve themselves. Not only will it keep them more engaged, it's almost like the B story to the A story of your plot, right? You've got the main plot, all the amazing lore that you've crafted, and you spent all of this time coming up with this story that your players are going to participate in, and that's fantastic, and that's great. That's the campaign. However, to make it more personal, and also hopefully later to tie those personal stories in with the main plot, make sure that your players have goals that they are seeking. That'll also help when they encounter those NPCs or the random NPC that you had to create on the spot. You want your players to be going after something that might be in addition to the main plot. So goals are extremely important. You can even have goals for the session, so you as DM are not aimless either. Goals are incredibly important in Dungeons and Dragons, and like I said, it's so important, and it's a little bit more of an amorphous sort of concept that we might cover it in more detail. We probably will cover it in more detail in a future episode. So everyone, those are my 5 tips that I've learned streaming D&D online, and I hope each one of them makes your home game even more amazing. And if it does help, please let me know down below in the comments which one of these tips you liked, which one helped improve your game. And if there are other things that you'd like to hear about, please let me know here. And also, if you haven't already, join our Discord. We have an amazing community for the role players, very supportive. And we even have a channel there for talking about the streaming DM. So if you have other ideas, you can post it there as well. In the meantime, I hope everybody has an amazing week. Please stay safe out there, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye, everyone. So that's it, everyone. Those are my 5 tips. Those are my 5.